Okay. It's recording. Welcome to Lincoln. We are at the Ibis Hotel, ready for weekend at the Asylum. Aren't we, Doctor?
As ready as we'll ever be.
So, what's your name? And
I'm Lord Artemis Lockenloads. I'm a professional mercenary and also a vampire slayer. I have some very competitive rates, so you can hire me and we can work. If you've not got a lot of money on it, we can work a deal out if you want. Yeah.
My name is Liam Murray.
Liam Murray, and you have a character name?
Yeah, it's called Steampunk Overlord.
So, can I ask you, what inspired you to make this?
Well, basically, my thing here is I basically like to design costume. I don't really belong to any steampunk club, or I don't go on this, really get involved in that too much. Rather than, I just love to design my own costumes.
In reverse order, I got into steampunk. I was a massive sci-fi fan for many years. Grew up with Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, all that kind of thing. A few years ago, looking on Google, very bored, came across Victoriana and steampunk, and the rest, as I say, is history.
Hello, I'm Dr. Peppercorn, and we're interviewing Robert Rankin.
Hi there.
What inspired you to write these books?
Well, in all truth, it's 30 years ago. This is the 30th year I've been writing, and a very great desire not to have a 9-to-5 job. The most important thing to me was to live out of my head. It was the 1960s, and that's what people did in the 1960s. And 20 years later, I was able to actually make a living at it. But I finally have made a living at it. In fact, here's my new book here, The Mechanical Messiah and Other Marvels of the Modern Age, the second in my steampunk Victorian trilogy, which I am shamelessly touting here. And I love every minute of it. I've been very lucky, I'm still in print, and it's a very enjoyable way to make a living. And it's the way this man hopes to make a living.
What made you choose steampunk as a genre?
Well, I had written a book years ago. Have you read The Witches of Chiswick?
Not yet, no.
Right, I wrote a book which was an alternative past book. And from when I was a very small child, my father collected oddments of sort of Victoriana, and the first thing he ever gave me was a whale's tooth. And it was just the most utterly beautiful thing. It was a Victorian one, it was patina on it. And I collected more and more Victorian things, and I began to really enjoy the whole Victorian thing. And as a child, well, as a teenager, it was the sort of the hippie period, but at jumble sales you could buy Victorian clothes for pennies. And so I walked around between the ages of sort of 14 and 18 dressed as a Victorian. Nobody minded, I fitted in beautifully. I've still got it on film to prove it's true. And I'd always liked the Victorian era, and I'd always liked the painter Richard Dadd, who went mad and killed his father, and fascinating. He painted a picture called The Fairy Fella's Masterstroke. You ever seen that picture?
Afraid not, no.
Right, it's in the Tate Gallery. He painted it while he was in Bedlam. It took him 8 years to paint it, and he didn't finish it. But it's an extraordinary piece of work. So I wrote a book about that, and I wrote a book about going back into Victorian times, and Victorian times have been different. Charles Babbage had actually exhibited all his work at the Great Exhibition, which he didn't do. He never exhibited the difference engine at the Great Exhibition. Tesla had created a wireless transmission of electricity, all this sort of thing, in a perfect Victorian past. So when I was accepted and given the first fellowship in the Victorian Steampunk Society, for that book, I didn't even know at that time what steampunk was. I didn't know there were wonderful people dressed as Victorians. I had no idea about this. It was just like coming home to heaven. Oh, God! I fished the wardrobe out. So I said, look, I will write for you a series of books. And it's pretty much the kiss of death, because steampunk is hopefully never going to become fashionable. If it becomes fashionable, all the steampunks will do something else. We don't want to be chavs. We want to be our own selves. And so for this brief moment, I've written a steampunk trilogy. It'll probably be the least selling of my books. It's getting some severe criticisms from the critics. I don't care. I'm loving every moment of it.
This is Joe Slatter, one half of the Dark Power who made Steam the Compass. Do you want to ask the questions?
Yes, what got you into steampunk?
My brother, basically. Well, I've always liked it. Used to play steampunk computer games like the Chaos Engine, things like that, back in the day in Bioshock, of course, more recently. But no, my brother is a steampunk musician, Tom Slatter. You can Google him. Just to give him a plug. No, basically, he writes steampunk music. And I'm a wannabe filmmaker, I suppose. I'm not a professional or anything like that, but I do it in my spare time, really enjoy it. So it makes a lot of sense to really make videos to accompany his songs. It's quite useful because all of his songs have a narrative. So I can just literally go through his album and go, I like that one, I love that one, and make a video to it. And he's very willing to dress up in silly costumes and prance about, etc., for me. So that's quite handy.
Brilliant. Can you tell us a bit about your brass man glass?
Yeah, I can't remember why I started making it. I was actually for the video. There we go.
Oh, very nice.
Well, I've got a video on my YouTube channel which is it's kind of inspired by Iron Man. So there's a video of me sort of blowing stuff up with it, eventually causing the ceiling. But no, I fancied making something, so I went around all the 99p stores and bought a load of junk. Bought some leather off eBay and sort of sat there with this pile of junk and thought, right, what can I make? And I love Iron Man, been watching the films recently and it sort of stuck in my head. I think this crystal was, I got it, I'm doing a science course and this came with some of the books.
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of sitting there and I thought, I've got to do something with that. So I think that kind of idea, having a crystal in a ring kind of came to my mind. So I thought, well, let's do an Iron Man sort of thing. So if you can imagine a sort of, that's the plan anyway.
That's absolutely brilliant. Have you got any plans for the future?
Well, we've just finished the new video called Beast of the Air for Tom's new album. I kind of like the idea of having something that's been knocking about in my head for a while is myself and my brother sitting there taking tea. Disagreement ensues and we end up having a laser battle with like gauntlets and laser guns and things. That might be the next one, I don't know, we'll have to see, but there'll be more, I think.
Fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to say to the internet?
Just to say thanks to Andy for being probably my only fan. So, thank you very much. And Steampunk Stand now as well. So,
Okay, well, thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
I'm left-handed this weekend.
Wales a song to keep us dreaming. The beast of the air, Wales a song. Wales a song to keep.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.